What if everything you think you know about 9/11s is only part of the story? Not because the truth is hidden, but because it's too uncomfortable to accept. September 11th, 2001 remains one of the most documented and emotionally charged events in modern history, which is exactly why it still generates so much argument. The basic facts are clear. 19 al-Qaeda hijackers took control of 4 commercial airliners, crashed 2 into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, 1 into the Pentagon, and a 4th into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers fought back. The attacks killed 2,976 victims, not counting the 19 hijackers, and injured thousands more. Yet even with official investigations, videos, phone calls, radar records, recovered evidence, and years of analysis, conspiracy theories have never disappeared. To understand why, you have to separate 2 different questions. What happened, and why so many people still feel that what happened cannot be the whole story. What happened that morning unfolded fast. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 hit the South Tower, making unmistakably clear that the country was under coordinated attack. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, killing everyone on board and 125 people inside the building. At 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers and crew, learning from phone calls that other hijacked planes had already been used as weapons, fought to stop the hijackers from reaching their intended target in Washington. These are not reconstructed myths from decades later. They're supported by contemporaneous records, air traffic data, emergency calls, cockpit voice and flight data recorders, and thousands of witnesses. The U.S. government's most comprehensive public account came from the 9/11's Commission, which concluded that the attacks were carried out by al-Qaeda operatives who exploited deep failures in intelligence sharing, watch listing, aviation security, and imagination at the federal level. The Commission did not describe the attacks as an inside job. It described them as a catastrophic success by a terrorist organization that had declared war on the United States years earlier, tested American defenses, and found them fragmented and complacent. The plotters entered the U.S., moved money through banks, took flight lessons, communicated with overseas facilitators, and boarded planes with small knives and box cutters at a time when cockpit doors were not hardened and hijacking doctrines still assumed negotiation, not suicide attacks. The collapse of the World Trade Center is where many of the most persistent conspiracy theories take root, especially claims of controlled demolition. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, investigated the Twin Towers and WTC-7 and concluded that the towers collapsed because the plane impacts severed and damaged columns, stripped fireproofing from structural steel, and ignited widespread fires. As the fires burned, floor systems weakened, sagged, and pulled on core and perimeter columns until collapse became unavoidable. NIST has repeatedly stated that it found no corroborating evidence that the towers were brought down by explosives planted before the attacks, and no evidence that missiles struck the towers. It also addressed the puffs of smoke sometimes cited as demolition charges, explaining them as air and debris forced out as floors failed sequentially below the descending mass. WTC-7, which was not hit by a plane, became another major flashpoint for suspicion because its collapse looked strange to many viewers. NIST's explanation was that debris from the North Tower heavily damaged the building and that uncontrolled fires burned for hours, causing thermal expansion that led to the failure of a critical interior column and then a progressive collapse. Critics have never accepted that conclusion unanimously. The official investigation is not a vague shrug. It is a detailed engineering account tied to observed damage, burn patterns, structural analysis, and modeling. That does not mean everyone must find the explanation emotionally satisfying. It means there's a technical explanation based on physical investigation, not merely a demand for trust. The Pentagon also became a magnet for alternative theories, partly because many people expected a dramatic cinematic image of a full plane wreckage field and did not understand what a high-speed impact into a reinforced structure would look like. But official accounts, the victim's memorial, physical recovery, and the Pentagon's own records identify the aircraft as American Airlines Flight 77, with 64 people on board and 125 killed in the building. Likewise, Flight 93's story is not an empty official claim unsupported by evidence. The National Park Service timeline, passenger phone calls, and recordings support the conclusion that passengers and crew fought back, preventing the hijackers from reaching Washington. In both cases, grief and confusion created room for rumors, but the core facts are extensively documented. That still leaves the question many people ask. If the evidence is so extensive, why do the conspiracies persist? Part of the answer is psychological, not political. Research on conspiracy beliefs shows that they become more attractive when people feel uncertain, distressed, powerless, or confronted by events so large that ordinary explanations feel emotionally inadequate. A plot by a hidden cabal can feel perversely more satisfying than the truth of bureaucratic failure, fragmented intelligence, and preventable incompetence. A conspiracy theory offers intention where reality offers chaos. It turns "this terrible thing happened because institutions failed" into "this terrible thing happened because someone powerful meant for it to happen." That story can feel cleaner, even if it is less true. Another reason conspiracy theories persist is that 9/11s genuinely did expose real failures and real lies in the broader political era around it. The attacks happened despite warnings, known al-Qaeda activity, and intelligence fragments that were never assembled in time. Then came the wars, the Iraq intelligence disaster, secret detention, torture revelations, and years of official mistrust. Once people conclude that governments lied about one major thing, they often become willing to believe they lied about everything. That does not prove 9/11s was staged or assisted from within. It explains why some people are primed to think so. Distrust is the soil in which conspiracy theories grow. The internet made this even harder to unwind. In the early years after 9/11s, long-form websites, documentaries, and message boards turned scattered doubts into self-reinforcing communities. Today, short clips and viral posts can spread a claim about the wrong engine, no plane at the Pentagon, or controlled demolition to millions of people in hours. These claims often rely on selective images, incomplete context, or a misunderstanding of aviation and engineering. But they feel persuasive because they are emotionally punchy and easy to share. Correcting them usually requires more time, more background knowledge, and more patience than creating them did in the first place. That imbalance favors the conspiracy narrative. If you want more deep, mind-bending stories that challenge what you think you know, hit subscribe now, because the truth is rarely as simple as it seems.